When I first started this project, I was totally clueless, totally naive about what it would take, how long it would take, what it would cost, what the steps involved were. So I got a wonderful education, in that sense, a really inexpensive education in the wonderful world of digital audio. We had, as we said, the material that we had recorded in my father's parlor, and that was quite a bit, several hours of that.
Yeah, that was about 4 hours of stuff to go through.
Right. And then I had made a list of all that so Scott could track it, and also we could communicate
about what was what. You know.
Right. And so we both had the list, and so that made it much
Yeah, because some of them were obscure songs that not everyone would know, and certainly I didn't know. And I got to know them as we went through the project. But
because it was my father's old-time music,
yeah.
for the most part. And some songs, also the 7 songs that my father had composed himself over the years. So I just went into the project with great faith, great passion that somehow we would do it, and Scott made it really all fun and easy. Yeah! And then the first step then was the recording, which we've talked about, and now we're going into this stage called editing. Now, editing was all at a distance.
Yeah.
I was back in St. Louis in Illinois at my father's. Scott was down here still in Nashville. He would edit chunks of the project and send it through a wonderful service called YouSendIt, which handles really large audio files. And then I would review it. I would keep notes of my comments, and just like a director for a play, you know, when you act in a play, the director gives you notes. So that it was like that.
Yeah.
I would send my notes to Scott and tell him what my sense of what we were doing. He would redo it. We did a few takes on some of these. The first take was just fine, and then some of them we did 2 takes, or maybe even 3 on some of them. And so then when we were happy with the result, then we would call it a wrap, as the film people say, and then move on to the next stage. And I thought it might be really interesting to hear from Scott's point of view, from the technical point of view, what that process was like for him, because during this period he was really doing most of the work and I was simply responding to it. And sometimes I would play these portions for my father too, and he would also have his own notes, naturally.
Yeah, it's really just taking a lot of input from that point. I mean, we'd already made a lot of the decisions about
the feel of
the feel of what it was going to be, and we were trying different things too. Like we would have a somber, a more somber music going with a more somber poem, and then we decide later, well, that one doesn't flow as good as another one, and we try different things, and we just pop in pieces almost like Legos, just reorganize stuff and just find new ways, and eventually it became a cohesive unit that you could listen to start to finish, and it would help paste it all together.
Sometimes I had very specific instructions to Scott about which song should bookend a certain poem, but sometimes I trusted Scott so deeply that sometimes I would just say, let's find something that has a certain feel, like that has an upbeat, or it's very sweet sounding,
or playful, depending on the
So it's like going to a very good hairstylist, holding up your shoe and saying, "Okay, cut my hair like this."
Well, I think it was interesting on this project because I come from a musical background and I'm a musician myself, and I think all of that helped tie in with this particular project. As if this were just reading poems, you could just put a mic in front of someone and just record it. But this was, weaving together the elements of, your musical life and your poetic life, and making it one, auditory unit,
Yes, and also the music was part of our family history as much as the poems alluded to the family history, and so that's part of what made it work.
Yeah.
And I told Scott that I didn't want to replicate the book. I wanted to take it into new territory and make the book, make the spirit of the book be more expansive as we join the audio of the music with the poetry. The next step in our process was disc numbering and mastering. They're a little bit the same, and Scott's going to tell us what the definitions are for them and how they blend together and what he does when he's doing that process.
Okay, so throughout the project we're working in Pro Tools, and things are kind of in multiple tracks. We have the music, and we have the audio, your spoken audio, and just trying to get the levels between those to work together, and
the audio levels
together. And I printed that, so basically it becomes a 2-track form, just like you would listen to a CD or an MP3. It's a left and a right.
I see.
And from there, what we'd have is, it'd be labeled, Introduction 1, 2, whatever the first poem would be. And they were basically long audio files. The whole project was one long audio file from that point. And it's sort of, I kind of did a little bit of mastering as I went along the way, basically to get all the levels even, but also loud, so you can just set the volume of the CD player to one thing.
So it wouldn't be like I'm reading the poem kind of softly and smoothly, and then suddenly there's
yeah, because some poems you'll be more loud, you'll be louder, and then you'll be softer. But when you're listening to that on a CD, you don't want to go, well, what did they say? Oh gosh, it's like a too loud commercial on television.
Right.
So we use compression to basically even out all of those signals, and that was done. Most of that was generally done in Pro Tools. So I kind of did my mastering
as you were going along.
As I was going along. It's not typically how it's done, but it's such a long, vast amount of material. We had to do it that way. So once we got the long audio files, because it was 4 discs, so it was essentially 4 really long audio files.
Yes.
We had to go in and create all the CD numbers, all the markers, and decide, okay, do we want to put, a marker for this piece, or, because we would basically weave in the music inside the poems. It's like, well, do we want to delineate that this song happens as a little breath in this poem or not? So we kind of had to decide on all that. And just technically, it's making the numbers on a disc,
Right. How it would appear to the end user, of course, is just you're playing your CD, and then you have the skip function, correct? And so then that would take you from track to track. One of the really nice things about the way that this project became in the end was that you can skip in such a way, you can listen to the whole thing as a whole if you like, so that you get the experience that we had really planned for it, of the poem and then the break, whether it was the dad telling a story or a joke or the music, and then going back to the poem. So you can listen to that in toto, or let's say that you're a real music fan, you're not so much into poetry. This is what I tell all my musician friends, is that then you can just skip to the music. And what I've been doing is that I've been taking these this project, these CDs, traveling with me on my 2 trips to Africa. And there are certain poems that I really love listening to because it's my father's voice.
Yeah.
And so instead of calling home, I'll just put on this CD.
The comfort factor.
Yeah, I'll listen before bed. I'll listen to Daddy's voice.
That was one of the things I really enjoyed about, I've never met your father, but I kind of feel like I know him just from hearing his voice so much.
Yeah,
and
he has this incredibly gravelly voice.
There's so much character in his voice. It's like, oh, I have to listen. That must be really important if he's saying it, for some reason.
Exactly. Because my father's 93, but he has this natural authority about him. And if Daddy says to do something, you do it.
It's that kind of James Earl Jones, that
exactly.
feeling, That's pretty cool.
Exactly.